Hebrews chapter 1 obliterates the theory that Jesus is just an angel. But unfortunately, there are still, you would think that would be enough to put an end to that idea, but there are still cults today that teach that Jesus is nothing more than an angel. Both the Mormons, so people of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and Jehovah's Witnesses teach that Jesus Christ was nothing more than an angel. More specifically, Mormons view Jesus and Satan, I quote, as spirit brothers and as created sons of God. And Jehovah's Witnesses believe that Jesus was the highest created angel, Michael, or the archangel. And this is one of the reasons why those two faiths are outside the parameters of historic Christianity. That's why we would call them cults. Pastor John Piper, I think, puts it best in just a single sentence quote. He says, "Angels were created not to compete with Christ, but to worship Christ and to honor Him." Well, angels have one more role, according to Hebrews chapter 1. It's a role that I think will surprise some of you. And it's a good one to leave on. It's in verse 14. And I quote, "Are not all angels ministering spirits sent to serve those who will inherit salvation?" The writer here is speaking about us. That's us. We're the ones who will inherit salvation. And how do we inherit salvation? The answer, by accepting Jesus as God's one and only Son, by receiving Him into our hearts, and then by offering up our lives in service to Him. So what have we learned from this first chapter in Hebrews? I think we've learned that we humans are prone to two major temptations. Number one, I think we're prone to the temptation of overplaying or overemphasizing angels, of making angels more than they would want themselves to be made of, more than they were created to be, to give them more credit than they're due. And I think our other great temptation is to underplay Jesus, to underemphasize Jesus, who is God's one and only Son. More importantly, I think that the writer of Hebrews would have us understand that there is absolutely no way that we could overplay Jesus. There's no way that we could overplay Jesus. There's no one else like Him. He is higher than the angels. He is superior to angels. He was there before the creation of the world. He came into this world to save us, and He will exist long after this world wears out, as we just read, like a garment. He'll still be there. Really, Jesus is the one constant that you and I have in an ever-changing world. And I know that some of you are still skeptical. Some of you, by way of invitation to this church community, would come as seekers or spiritual explorers. And I would just venture to say that that would be, hopefully, one of the reasons that would maybe help you to cross the line into faith. That Jesus is the one constant that you have in the world that you live in. And I think we all need a constant. So I would encourage you to embrace Jesus Christ as your constant today. And here's what I find interesting. Those of us, like myself, who identify ourselves as believers, we may believe what is spoken of Jesus in Hebrews chapter 1, but often, really, often in our lives, we act as though we depend on someone or something other than Jesus for our security. Often we live as though our financial problems or our family problems or our medical problems are beyond Jesus' reach. Like there's something that He can't do anything about. It should be different. It should be different. If Jesus could create the universe, then no part of the universe or life is outside of His grasp. So stop excluding Jesus' wisdom. Stop excluding the Bible's guidance from the greatest problems in your life, from the most complex challenges that you face in your daily life. Instead of making Jesus a last resort, go first to God for advice. Because the truth of the matter is that no one is able to do more about your ultimate security than Jesus. And no one cares more about your ultimate security in Jesus. And that's the end of chapter 1. And next week we're going to come back and we're going to dive into more of this great book of Hebrews. So before I invite the band up, or maybe while they're coming up, let me lead you in prayer. Father God, thank you that you did speak. We read it in verse 2 of Hebrews chapter 1. Many of us are sensing it, the power of your word, even in this moment. It was not your will to leave us to grasp for straws. It was your will to sustain us through our lives and to give us a hope that would endure through all the complexities of change and all the problems that we face, medical problems.